If escape rooms are too extrovert-leaning for you, fret not, because escape room horror has you covered. Trust us, it's a great way to experience them from the comfort of your own couch. This way, you're free to enjoy your favorite snacks or leave the game with a click of the button. To understand where we're coming from, check out some of the picks for our upcoming lineup of the best escape room horror films. First up, we've got Vincenzo Natali's Cube, 1997. For those of you who are just starting to get into the puzzle escape gore genre, Cube is where it all began. It was this proto-escape room film for the 90s that, according to enthusiasts and critics, birthed the infamous Saw franchise, which, in turn, gave way to the more established escape room movies that we see today. But more on that later. For now, let's return to Cube. At its simplest, the film, as its name implies, features 5 strangers trapped in what can be best described as a maze of cubes. To elaborate, the group starts out in a cubicle room, which leads them to yet more cubicle and mostly identical rooms. The only difference is that some of them are different colors and have been booby-trapped. Now, as is the norm with these films, these people have no memory of how they got here. To boot, each individual brings something special to the table. For example, Nicole DeBoer's Levin is a math whiz, whereas Worth, played by David Hewlett, is an architect with something up his sleeve. Just a heads up, since this movie came out in the 90s, these characters might come off as a little stereotypical. Similarly, since it was a low budget and also somewhat the first of its kind, we'd advise you not to compare it with modern-day escape room flicks. So to speak, the puzzles aren't introduced till later in the plot, but it does eventually get around to them, allowing the strangers to work together to crack them in order to escape. If you'd like to start from square one of puzzle gore or enjoy movies from much simpler times, this is the film for you. Then there's the first installment of Saw. There aren't many horror nerds out there who haven't seen or heard of the Saw franchise. It's right up there with some of the best and the longest-running horror franchises like Scream, Child's Play, and Halloween. Now, before you come for us in the comments, we're aware that not all Saw films can be classified into the escape room genre, despite the fact that they provided many of its examples today with Jigsaw's characteristic "let's play a game" formula. For this reason, we've only selected the first one. It fits the criteria because, for those of you who don't remember, it involves 2 men being held captive in a bathroom, and in order to get out, they have to connect the dots about why they've been confined and, on top of that, how they may know each other. Before we proceed, let's warn you, this film and its plethora of torture sequences aren't for the weak of heart. Also, you can't miss the Natalie Cox star, Exam. While hardcore escape room horror aficionados might scoff at this choice, we feel that Exam can be categorized as such. Before we can explain why, let's quickly spill out the plot. As its title indicates, it hinges on 8 individuals taking an exam. To be exact, one that's geared at employment. Now, the twist is that this assessment only has a single question, and they have to figure out what it is. That too, within a period of 80 minutes. The other rules are pretty simple. A, they can't talk to the armed guard at the door, and B, they can leave the game, but they'll be disqualified. Now, we believe that it's the part about being able to quit anytime you want that makes people leave this gem out of the escape room genre. But as far as we're concerned, the film's group dynamics as well as the puzzle-solving element make it fit right in. It also boasts of a cast that most of you might be familiar with. For instance, it stars Pollyanna McIntosh of The Walking Dead fame. What's more, Natalie Cox from the Star Wars The Force Unleashed also appears in the film as Blondie. Add to that, there's Jodie Foster's Panic Room. If you enjoy star-studded movies, the Jodie Foster and Kristen Stewart-starred Panic Room might be right up your alley. Although it's not a true escape room movie, it has a number of elements that'll appeal to the escape room enthusiast in you. To explain what we just said, the film is largely based on a mother-daughter duo devising ways to survive inside the panic room that they've had to take refuge in. Why, you ask? Well, because there are robbers outside, and what do they want? The $3 million that is, drumroll, hidden inside that very panic room. So there's a lot of reasoning happening on the robbers' end as well. Now, this isn't exactly a spoiler, so we're going to put this out there. Kristen Stewart's character, Sarah, is diabetic. And trust us when we say this, seeing her working against time without her insulin is one of the major reasons why we have anxiety today. On top of that, we've Alex Merkin's No Escape Room. Out of all the films of this lineup, No Escape Room comes closest to being a typical horror movie. By typical, we mean that it has a supernatural factor to it. This factor is executed in the form of an entity that stalks the participants of an escape room. The major characters, as opposed to the previous pick, are a father and daughter duo. Without giving away too much of the plot, let's just say that the two go to the film film's prime attraction in an attempt to bond, but as we've already explained, it turns into a game of survival instead. Now, you can decide for yourself after you've done watching it, but in our humble opinion, it ended in a way that truly befits the escape room genre. Similarly, you can't miss Skeet Ulrich's Escape Room 2017. Don't let its unoriginal name deter you from watching it, because just like no escape room, it also has a supernatural twist to it. And when we say supernatural, we mean it has both a possessed artifact and then later on a possessed character. In case you were wondering what makes this a puzzle gore or escape room horror film, the said character wreaks havoc within a single room. Another reason to watch this film is that it stars Skeet Ulrich from Scream. Yep, that's good old Billy Loomis. For those of you who were born after Instagram became a thing, you might have seen the actor playing Jughead's dad on Netflix's Riverdale. Finally, we've the Spanish-language film Fermat's Room. Another underrated gem when it comes to these types of films is the Spanish-language film Fermat's Room. If you love math, which, just by the way, you have to be a special kind of insane for that, as well as horror, you need to watch this film, because as weird as it sounds, it's premised on 4 mathematicians who have to solve a math enigma in order to save their lives. Yes, you heard that right. Now, their failure to crack the expression would mean being crushed to death by the very walls of the room that they've been confined to. Another, and you can call it a subplot of sorts, the thing about the film is that these 4 individuals also need to find out how they're connected. So basically, the same formula as Saw, only that they'll need real formulas as well. Honorable mentions: Follow Me and Escape from Marwen. Before you go, we'd like to introduce you to 2 more gems. The first one is a low-budget but still unmissable film called Escape from Marwen. Now, as the title explains, the 5 individuals in the movie who, to be specific, are on death row, have to get out of a mansion called, any guesses? Yep, you got it, the Marwen Mansion. The interesting thing is that they only have 40 hours to make an escape. Anyone who will remain on the premises after this time is up will be, well, killed. What were you expecting? Anywho, if you're the type of person who enjoys watching people with flawed morality making important decisions, you'll love this film. Just keep in mind that it was a rather low-budget production and did the best that it could. Okay, now on to Follow Me. Unlike Escape from Marwen, you'll find this 2020 film to be really well made with a spectacular ending. Without spoiling anything, it involves a guy in search of new experiences going to an escape room in Moscow. But of course, this room turns out to be a nightmare. Simply put, the main character, i.e. Cole, now has to solve elaborate traps if he wants his newfound friends to survive. If you're a fan of the Saw franchise, you should definitely watch this. It's essentially a blending of Saw and modern-day escape room films. That's a wrap for this video. Have you seen any of these movies before? If yes, what did you think? Do they capture the true spirit of escape films? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.